Hello everyone. We're nearly at the halfway point in the course, next week being reading week. This week we're looking at linking community design, land use planning, and active transportation. It's really a chance to bring together some of the topics we've already talked about and put them into a context where we start to think of the holistic components of planning as it relates to those three topics in particular. You'll note here, and we'll come back to some images that are a little bit like this. This week I'm not providing so much additional new material. There's new material through the other websites that were provided to you and the other videos that have been provided as well. It's a bit of a sort of gather what we've captured to this point in time and then move forward from here. So in terms of this week, there's a number of things to be looking at. As mentioned, there are some new videos, there's readings, and of course assignments. Continuing to work on assignment 3, which people will have started last week, and a number of other topics that we're looking at connected to other videos that will be made evident to you. I want to bring a little bit of focus to the videos that we're looking at. There's a short little video, really a 2-minute overview of active transportation that I think you will find to be helpful. And then there's an hour-long video on indicators and connections to official plans. It's quite interesting material. It's a bit lengthy, but quite interesting material that I think you will enjoy. I brought a little bit of a focus. When you go to the link that we've provided, a web page like this will come up, and what you actually need to click on is right beside the location of the Peel video. There's a little YouTube video recording, a little blue symbol at the bottom that you'll need to click on to get to that video, but I think you'll find it to be quite of interest. In particular, there's some really interesting GIS work that's been done as part of that video. GIS, Geographic Information Systems, done as part of that video, and this is an example that you can look at in more detail as you follow through in that video. It shows one community within an urban context where they're looking at land use diversity, and from a planning perspective, we aim to have a diverse range of land uses to create the opportunity for walkability and self-contained communities in the sense of employment opportunities, living and recreation and so on. And it shows that if you look too narrowly at a community, you might end up with a single land use, but if you look at a broader context, and in this instance it's looking at a land use diversity index mapped out at 400 meters from that center core of a community, and you get a wide range of land uses within that immediate area. So again, look at the Mapping the Built Environment, Peel Public Health's Healthy Development Mapping and Monitoring Project. Lots of connections to land use, lots of connections to different aspects of public health, and as mentioned within a GIS context. Just a couple of other images I've captured from that video, building health through planning, and also in this instance a walkability index for the region of Peel. And as you might anticipate, in the southern part of the region, around Brampton, of course it's very walkable in the context of people being in close proximity to lots of services. As you get to the northern part of the region, it's much less walkable into the rural areas. So interesting again to look at that video as I've mentioned in some detail. Hopefully you'll find that to be of interest. I know I did. Also, some of the additional readings just to bring focus to that, looking at the Middlesex County Health Unit website on community design. I think they've done a really nice job of bringing together various aspects of it that you'll want to look at as well. And also of key importance is the Canadian Institute of Planners Healthy Communities Practice Guide. We've been provided with a link to that, and it includes a number of relevant materials. Again, the practice guide, and just to note the purpose of the guide, designed for planning and development practitioners to help them in their work towards healthier communities. So look at the guide. And I'm going to bring a bit of focus to 2 or 3 key components of it that I want you to look at in some detail, covered in the next slide here. We're again looking to the guide. The table of contents, and often looking at the table of contents gives you a really good idea of what you'll find within it. And in particular, in the section under land use development controls, you'll find components on zoning, components on parking, components on street standards. Some of the regulations, if you like, some of the standards that would be appropriate to apply in an urban and in some rural contexts as well, in terms of what you might be able to do or to achieve through zoning as a tool by which you can help to achieve healthier communities. For those folks who might not be so familiar with zoning, and I'm thinking of our colleagues in public health, zoning, of course, is a regulatory tool that regulates land use. It establishes standards for how big a property might be, for how high a building might be, setbacks on property yards, and things of that nature, how much open space, all of which, when you think about it from the point of view of a healthy community, are appropriate standards that can have an impact, both positive or conversely negative, in helping to make the community more walkable, more dense, more compatible with their surrounding land uses and so on. So looking to zoning is an important tool. Likewise, parking standards are relevant. How much parking should be provided? What does that do for a new neighborhood in terms of walkability? What does it do in terms of how easy it is to use a car or not use a car, and so on. And likewise, standards around the streets are equally important. There are a number of good examples in Healthy Communities Practice Guide on the advantages of narrow streets versus wide streets. Within Ontario, for example, we tend to have a standard road width right-of-way of 66 feet or a little bit more than 20 meters. And what does that mean when a community is designed based on that standard versus something which might be at 10 or 12 or 14 meters width in terms of what it does for the feel of the community, what it does for walkability, what does it do for saying the car is important and people aren't, or conversely, people are important and cars aren't. And we look to those standards as impacting all of those items as we move forward. Another little piece I just captured here in this slide out of the Healthy Communities Practice Guide on elements of a healthy city. I think equally a healthy community, it's not just a city, that are relevant to look at, ranging from points 1 through 11, from a clean, safe, high quality physical environment to high health status, both for positive and low disease status in terms of what one might be looking to. So again, the Healthy Communities Practice Guide, developed by the Canadian Institute of Planners, is an important point for you to be looking at. It's an important document that will be helpful for you in understanding some of those standards and how they might be applied. So as you are currently working through the active transportation assignment, I've intentionally brought those materials forward as part of this week's reading and part of the videos that we're looking at. So as you're working through the active transportation assignment, think about the Peel presentation, that video that you will have watched. There's lots of good content there that I think can be influential for you in the report that you're preparing. Think about CIP's Healthy Communities Practice Guide. I think that equally includes content that will make your active transportation project more relevant for you as you're working through it. And finally, encourage us all to be thinking about those linkages between design, between land use planning, and what it might mean for healthy communities. So this has been a short week from the perspective of my presentation to you. There's additional materials that's really building on the work from the previous weeks and turning that into your report as you look at active transportation, taking as much from this content and the previous content towards that report. Next week, as mentioned, is winter break. I wish everyone a nice and safe time away from regular studies that you might be doing. And the following week, we'll be back to you with planning for special age groups. So thank you for your attendance and participation this week.